Welcome to the Once Again podcast. Today's episode is unique and will focus on your host, Ashley, and her relationship with Once Upon a Time. So without further delay, Ashley, take it away.
Woohoo, thank you, Jason. For me, Once Upon a Time took over that entire 7 years it was on the air. It took over my life. It was my Sundays. It it was everything. And when I look back, I think now, like, what drew me in from the start, before I even, like, Once Upon a Time even came around, I was not much of a television person. I admit that. I watched all the Disney movies. I was a Disney kid. I was an animated kid. I watched cartoons on Sundays on occasion, but otherwise, like, on the weekends, but I didn't watch like TV the way other people watch TV. Like, I missed out on a lot of shows because I just did not watch TV.
Hmm.
I read a lot. We'll probably talk about that more when we talk about me reading some of the Once Upon a Time books, but I read, but that instilled in me a love of fantasy, a love of fairy tales. That paired with all the Disney movies was a recipe to like something like Once Upon a Time. And I remember seeing, the promotions and going, that looks really interesting. And the first episode, I forced my dad on that Sunday night to sit down and watch it with me. And that became our show. That
Hmm.
was my dad and I's show the entire length. Every Sunday, we would go watch the show, get our wine, get our cheese and crackers, and it gave us something to talk about, think about every week. And, I miss having that with him. I love Once Upon a Time. It's a great show. I love all the characters. I still listen to the musical episode all the time. I listen to the songs from that like a crazy person. I never fell off. I know a lot of people, I know in your episode, a lot of people fell off at certain points, especially after the Neverland stuff.
Mhm.
I stayed with it the whole time. I kept watching. So when other people are like, yeah, I haven't watched that show in a year, I'm like, no, I'm just still watching, still trugging along every Sunday
Trooper.
night watching the show.
You're a trooper.
Yeah, I stood through the whole thing and I don't regret that. I think the show, I do think it was a slog at some points and really hard to get through, but I don't regret getting through it because I think a lot of the later seasons are great. And I think it sucks for all the people that dropped off before then because I think that I have friends that I'm like, I know you would have loved season 5 and 6 had you gotten there, but
Hmm.
a lot of people just didn't make it that far. And I understand that. I do.
So you mentioned that you weren't a big television person. Well, not very little television at all. But you did like Disney movies. Do you remember if maybe this is reaching, but do you remember like what the first Disney movie you saw was, or if you could name a couple if you had to group them?
I mean, I don't remember, but like, I'm sure it was like Beauty and the Beast and
Mm,
Pocahontas and stuff. Those are things I remember watching again and again. And Beauty and the Beast came out the year I was born.
okay.
So I'm sure like a lot of those things, I was born in the right time for the Disney Renaissance to come along and to see all those
Yeah.
new classics. They're classics now, but those new classics when they basically first came out, things
Mm,
like The Little Mermaid.
mm,
So
yeah.
I,
Yeah, it's true. I think I talked about in my episode how they were on a roll with like Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Pixar and everything, the Pixar movies that they
yeah, you
made.
couldn't go wrong. You had
Mm,
Toy Story, like everything was there. And I watched all the other animated movies, like the Don Bluth films are
mhm.
excellent as well. There's other animated films, but again, I think that all does come back to, if you like fairy tales, Once Upon a Time was the show. I know there's other shows that involve the fairy tales. You've got the show Grimm, but it's
Mhm.
definitely not the same vibe, not the same thing. The storytelling of Grimm is not the same that's going on in Once Upon a Time. And I like the idea of flipping the stories that we knew so well on their heads kind of a bit. And I thought it was interesting that the characters were not who they seem to be. I think at times it gets a little ridiculous at who characters are, but knowing that like Rumpelstiltskin is Hook's crocodile, like that's great. That's
Mhm.
so good. But
Mhm.
Like,
that was going to be my next question, was what aspects of the storytelling, combining the characters or combining the stories using the same characters, do you think was like Rumple your favorite? Like they made him the Beast and
oh,
Beauty and
hands down.
Beast.
I
Yeah.
think anything they've done with Rumple,
Mhm.
they did almost flawlessly.
Mhm.
Like just writing him and how they used his character to kind of be the beast, to be the
Mhm.
crocodile. Like I said, at some points, all the family connections and all of it gets a little crazy. And when you got Peter Pan being Rumple's dad and
Mhm.
the Black Fairy being his mom, when you have all those things, it's a lot. But
Mhm.
I think that's just something you kind of have to suspend disbelief and let the show do what it's going to do, because there's always going to be someone being someone else. Like it's going to happen.
Well, it's
I
an
think
sorry, go ahead.
another character, Ruby being the wolf herself, is also a big reveal, and I think that's such a good, like, you don't see it coming until it's happening and you're like, oh,
Yeah. No, I agree.
oh, like that's not something you expect.
Mm-mm. So, what aspect of season one really hooked you into the show?
Just the fact that like these fairy tale characters were stuck in our world and they didn't know what was going on,
Mhm.
supposedly. And honestly, I thought we were going to get another season or two of them, the curse not being broken. Like that made more sense to me. So
Yeah.
having the first season end the way it did, with like, oh, curse is broken, is so, like, now, even now, I'm like, wow, they could have just kept it going for another season or two, but they were like, no, we're ending the story arc right here. And it kind of left it at a, well, what's going to happen now? Like,
Yeah.
isn't the story over? Because really, at that point, the story is kind of over
Mm.
as far as like what you think the show is about. But I think there's such a larger play there. Like, the storyline is so much bigger. I think it's funny too, is like I said before, once upon a time, I didn't really watch a lot of TV, but this led me to, for like a 3 to 4 year period, watching almost every freaking show ABC had. And
Oh,
let me tell you, I can talk to you about any terrible show in that timeline. You want to talk about GCB that was on for like 5 episodes? I will talk about it. I got Mistresses, every show
oh
that
my
exists.
God.
Every
Mistresses.
Sunday night show, every Monday night show, every Thursday and Friday, like I know them.
Mm.
Awful. And
Uh,
most of them had one season or a few episodes. They're all bad, if I'm going to be honest. Most of them are bad.
I think the next best show from that time period on ABC was Gallivant. Um,
Gallivant was good.
yeah, I think maybe down the road that might be the next show that we cover. But
I'm still, Gallivant season 3 for Disney Plus,
yeah,
please.
yes, I
Would
agree.
enjoy.
Yeah, especially they're gonna do musicals and stuff on Disney Plus. Bring that, or at least do a Gallivant movie.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I'd love that. Just to like round out the series,
mhm.
like, because it was a very good show. I know they're bringing back one of those shows that was in this timeline, The Quest. I know
Mm,
they do have another season coming to Disney Plus.
mm. It's interesting.
It's a fantasy reality TV show, if you don't remember it.
I do not remember it.
Oh, it's literally like Survivor meets scripted television. Like, it's literally scripted, but also the competitions aren't scripted apparently. But like, there's a scripted fantasy storyline going on.
So do they adjust the storyline based off what happens in the competitions, or?
Kind of, but not really. Like, there's clearly like a played out story. Like,
Hmm.
people from our world need to go to this other world. So like, and the quest is them having to stop this like great
Oh,
evil. But
okay. I know what you're talking about now. Yes,
yeah,
I've never
and they
watched it,
have
but
to,
yes.
and they're doing competitions
Mhm.
that are like, oh, make a potion, like,
Mhm.
win this, win that. Like, it's meant to feel fantasy, but it's still
Mhm.
doing those like weird competitions you would see on like Big Brother or Survivor. it's
Okay.
it's reality TV, but it's very scripted on the storyline aspect.
Well,
Like,
I know you're also a Big Brother fan, so this has to be a dream show for you then.
oh, which again, didn't watch Big Brother or really watch Survivor till after Once Upon a Time. Like, a
Hmm.
lot of that came after.
So you mentioned you watched it with your father. What aspects of the show drew him in? What did he like best about the show?
I think he also just kind of enjoyed the fairy tale aspects and
Hmm.
enjoyed that there was a lot of unexpected things going on. I think he also just enjoyed he had something to watch with his daughter, but
Yeah, that's true. Family bonding over a show and
yeah,
everything.
I think it was more so that I kept up watching it, so he
Hmm.
kept up watching it.
Well, because it's not when you're watching the show with family or loved ones, it's not just watching the show. It's and especially with a week to week show, in the age of binging, we can just keep watching episode after episode. But in week to week television, you have discussions throughout the week, what you think is going to
Yeah.
happen, why this character did that. And Disney Plus is kind of bringing that back with their shows because the Marvel shows, the Star Wars shows have all been week to week shows.
And what's surprising to me is I know a lot of people that don't like that. I'm like, I like that. It makes me want to watch more. I don't enjoy binging.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
binging is rough on me. I don't like watching TV that way.
And also in the week to week shows, I don't know if this has the same effect on you as it does on me, but I remember more details in the week to week. When I binge a show, like I watched both seasons of Altered Carbon on Netflix, a very good show. But if you were to ask me more than three major plot details from each season, I don't even think I can name three major ones. I think I can only name one character from the show because I just went through it so quickly. Not like not when I would talk to friends
Yeah,
about
you
it.
don't, I feel like you don't register the details or like,
Mhm,
because even right now, we're watching this kind of one episode at a time, and
mhm.
like we catch the details more often because we're looking for them because we're doing this for the podcast, but also we're watching
Yeah,
one episode.
yeah. And it's interesting too to go back and watch it again, especially for something like the podcast now, and paying attention to the details, like you said, because you notice little lines, like how we picked up on Gold and his deal, or I should say Rumple
Yeah.
and his deal with the Evil Queen. That anytime he says please, and now we're going to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Um, but moving along, who's your favorite character from Once Upon a Time?
Oh, I think it's definitely Rumple.
Okay,
Like, I like Rumple is so well written
yeah,
throughout the
he's a full
series.
character.
Like, of course I love Emma, and
Mm,
I do love the like Dark Swan plot line as well. I think that's one of the better things, and I wish they had kept her around
yeah.
as that for a bit longer because I think, she deserved to have that moment.
Mm. It's interesting because she was never, even in her most selfish moments as the Dark Swan, she was still everything she was doing was for the greater good.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think the way the character is written, like, we talk about this, is like not every character is like strictly evil, not every character is strictly good. Like
Mm,
everybody has their motivations
mm.
and their backstory.
And it's interesting too because both her and Rumple have several ties together as far as their characters go. We haven't reached that point yet because it's later seasons, but we know going back in that Rumple was supposed to be the savior.
Yeah, so
And
it's interesting that both of them actually turned out to be dark ones, at
yeah,
least temporarily in
yeah,
Emma's case.
yeah.
Like,
And Rumple redeems himself, of course, as we know. But yeah, it's just even with all the antics of Rumple's family drama and how
yeah.
that all plays out, he he's an interesting character. She's a very interesting character.
I think my one thing about the show is I'm not sure we needed the last season. I do like the
Hmm.
last season. I don't think we quite needed it.
It's
I
like
think that was a good stopping point when
mhm.
we got to the end of season 6.
Hmm.
But
It's like a soft reboot.
yeah, and I mean,
Uh,
I would understand if they had just done that and they were on the air for another like 2 or 3 years after
mm.
that. But the fact that it was just kind of like, "Doop, done." So
Well, you
it
didn't
felt
want.
very reminiscent of Wonderland, and
Mhm.
you know how I feel about Wonderland. I think Wonderland is chef's kiss, like the epitome of what once can be when it's
Right.
really good. I think Wonderland kind of encompasses that into its single season
Mhm.
rather well.
Well, I also Wonderland has much less of the going back and forth that the
Yes.
Prime Once show has, but also
Its stakes are less too because
yeah,
they knew it was only going to be one season.
that's
So
true.
they jam packed everything, and it was supposed to be kind of a supplementary season, and it's good that it was that, it did something, like it definitely did something. But
Mhm.
I do think, when I also think of Once Upon a Time, I think Wonderland also kind of steps in, and I love those characters a lot. Maybe not Alice, but like a lot of the other characters
Right.
are
Well,
well written, really good.
do you prefer Alice from Wonderland or Alice season 7 Alice?
Oh, Wonderland Alice.
Wonderland Alice. Okay, interesting. I think I'm actually the opposite way. I think I prefer Hyperion Heights Crazy Alice.
I
But
think that my problem with that Alice is it's like it gets a little wonky because of the Hook relation. Again, season 7 gets a lot weird with the relationships, like even weirder than the first 6 seasons. Like maybe it's because you have time to like accept all the different stuff, and
right.
the Hyperion Heights stuff is like one season. Here's all these weird things going on and these weird family interactions that are just like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Yeah, gun to my head, the only thing I think season 7 did better than the rest of the series was naming Rumpelstiltskin Weaver. Like I was like, oh, that's such a clever name for him, rather than Mr. Gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you didn't watch this, but I mentioned how season 7 was kind of like a soft reboot. The television show Scrubs was very similar. There was Scrubs, the proper show, and it kind of wrapped up, but I can't remember if it switched from ABC to CBS or vice versa or whatever it was. But they did an additional season after that, after most of the main cast had already moved on and gotten other acting gigs. So they came back for 1 or 2 episodes, and it was called like Scrubs Med School or something like that. And it changed to be about this new generation of doctors that were training and everything. But I feel the same way about Once season 7 as I did about Scrubs Med School. It's good. It's not the same thing though. So who's your favorite Disney princess then?
Oh, come on, it's Belle. We know it's Belle. Do we even have to
Yeah.
guess?
Yeah, I knew that going in. Her
I
giant
mean,
her giant
I mean,
library and
let's be
everything.
honest. It's one of my favorite scenes
Mm.
is Belle and Rumble dancing.
Mm. Well, she likes to read, and
I know.
do you identify with Belle?
Yes.
Mm.
I mean, if we're identifying, I'm probably somewhere between Belle and like Princess Anna, but
Would you fall in love with the lizard man?
uh, listen, Robert Carlyle is attractive for his age.
Yeah,
I'll give him it.
no, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
He was also spoilers for the movie Yesterday. No, is that what it was called? I don't remember. It came out a few years ago. It was about a world where the Beatles never existed, and this one guy
Oh,
remembers their music. Spoilers for that movie, Robert Carlyle plays John Lennon in it. And it is so freaky how much he looks like an old John Lennon. Like they put him in makeup and stuff and everything, but it was like, oh my God, that is John Lennon on the screen right now. But then he talks and it's Robert Carlyle's voice. Nothing against his voice, but he doesn't sound like John Lennon. And I was like, oh, okay, took me back out. But
yeah.
he
Like
looks
whenever
so
I
much.
I've only know him from like a few things, but whenever I see him in anything, I'm just like,
Mm,
you're good at what you do. He also, Aragon's a terrible movie, but he does play Durza, and he does
okay,
it well. So
all right. Uh, That's it's funny about the actors being when I went back and watched How I Met Your Mother after watching Once. Jennifer Morrison is on a season, maybe 2 seasons of How I Met Your Mother. She's one of Ted's girlfriends in the show, and it was so funny watching her on that show on How I Met Your Mother because I actually realized how beautiful she is because she smiles on How I Met Your Mother, whereas on
yeah,
Once she very rarely smiles.
on one she always looks like she's going to beat somebody up because
Yes.
that's her personality.
Yeah, and that's Emma's character and everything, but it was just funny watching her on a different show and being like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. Whereas she's pretty on Once, don't get me wrong, but on my episode, I discussed why I wanted to start the podcast and what led to it. What about with you? What brought
I
you
mean,
to the
you brought
podcast?
it up, and I was like, of course, I love talking about the things that I love, and
Mhm.
most of those things involve books. But once upon a time is definitely something that I could talk about, and thing. And I'm, starting a podcast sounded like fun.
Mhm.
You said you were thinking about starting one. Of course, I've thought about starting one, but like, where to begin? Who to do that with? Like, not everybody wants to do that sort of thing.
That's true. Yeah, you were actually. I had as I mentioned, I had discussions with friends about different types of podcasts, and some of them, they thought, oh yeah, we could do it, but nothing ever came from it. You were the first person that I said we should do this, and you said, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Here's a logo. Let's go.
Hmm. Here's a logo. That's,
Let's go. Pretty much.
yeah. So what else would you like to discuss?
One thing that I like, one story I think about when I think about once too is, so the last season, premiered while I was back at college.
Hmm.
The last episode premiered the day before my graduation, so I missed the last episode almost completely because I was picking up my best friend from the bus stop. But I did manage to make it back in time just to see the last 10 minutes, which was worth it just to get that goodbye and that send off.
Yeah, that bookend that they put on it.
Yeah, that bookend with Emma and Hook coming back.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, that's a great scene because it made it seem, you just had the feeling that Jennifer Morrison wasn't
yeah,
going to be in the season and
but
everything.
like I missed most of that episode. Like
Hmm.
I think I saw a little bit at the beginning, then had to go to the bus station, and I was like, we have to go. I need to see the end.
Yeah,
Like I need to know.
that would have been awful to go through the entire series and stick with it the whole time and then not find out how it
I
ends.
was graduating, so I
Yeah,
can't be too mad, but like
true. I suppose we met in college. It was my second attempt at it.
also my
Uh,
second attempt.
yes,
So
but your second and final. I will be attending a third time coming up shortly. A third and final, I might mention. We met in English class and everything and became friends.
yeah,
Uh,
I guess we should mention that we're both English majors
yeah,
essentially. So
yeah.
it's
Uh,
not out of the realm that we do know this kind of stuff,
yeah,
storytelling.
and that we love to dive into details and notice little things. And we also bring kind of a different set of skills in noticing the things. I tend to focus on maybe some production details or behind the scenes things, and you have the keenest ear for the music and the keenest eye for costumes and those types of designs.
Yeah, the costumes, the little details, the music. I really love music besides reading and like that kind of stuff. I love music.
Mhm.
The musical episode gets me every time.
Mhm.
Like I remember hearing Emma's song for the first time, and when the music started, I was like, no, 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 no. We are not making Emma's theme her song right now. That is not what's going on. And I like had a baby panic attack because I was like, this is not happening.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, I don't get why you're freaking out. I'm like, this is the theme song for the whole show. That's what's going on right now. Like, how do you not know?
It's funny, the musical episode, I would rank it as the second best musical episode of a television series, only being surpassed by Buffy. And that's just my opinion. It could go either way according to other people. And oddly enough, I mentioned Scrubs before. Scrubs has a very good musical episode. The thing that's good about all three of them is that they have a narrative to explain why it's a musical episode.
I think once they wrote in like that, like, oh, the music was important, I was like, this all makes sense. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, we don't even have to think about it.
So is that your favorite episode as well, the musical episode?
Trying to think if it would be my favorite episode. It's definitely up there.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do think the storytelling is a bit lacking in that episode. As much as I love the music, it's
Hmm.
not. I do like a lot of the Dark Swan episodes too, just
Hmm.
because I like that we kind of get a different Emma because we've kind of got full throttle Emma being the savior up until that point.
Hmm.
I like when they find out that Balefire and Neil are the same person. That's
Hmm.
also kind of a good episode.
Mhm.
Like any of the episodes with the big reveals, I think are usually well done.
I agree. Do you want to mention any of the times that you dressed up as Once Upon a Time characters, or
I live in a red leather jacket, which is completely from the show. I won't lie.
Mhm.
I pulled that from that, and I recently had to get a new one because my old one basically was torn apart because it was getting old.
Mm,
So, like, I am committed to the red leather jacket. Thank you, Emma Swan, for having fashionable taste.
mhm.
I also own a couple pieces from the Hot Topic Once Upon a Time line that came out. I don't remember when that came out, but I want to say it was like season 3 or 4. Like it was a couple seasons in.
Mm.
And in that, I have the dress I never wear because it's basically a cosplay. It's Regina. It's a red velvet dress with black lacy sleeves. It's beautiful. I never have a reason to wear it. It just sits in my closet looking pretty.
Well,
I think I wore it to Christmas once.
if a wedding ever occurs that you're not invited to, that's your reason to wear
Obviously.
it. Yeah.
There's been weddings I haven't been invited to, and I was upset about it. So
Mm,
obviously, I should have just showed up.
well, there. Next time you know now. You also are a very crafty person. You go on. How often? At least once a year, you go to Disney and you make
Yeah, currently we're going in October for the 50th anniversary.
very
So
nice. But my point that I was getting to was that you make your own ears for when
I
you go
make
down
my
there.
own ears. I have an Etsy and make my own jewelry. Like I'm
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
crafty and
Do you want to share your Etsy information or anything? It's your episode. Feel
if
free
you're
to.
if you want to go check it out, it's a unique magic jewelry on Etsy and on Instagram if you're looking for it. I make a lot of weird, nerdy type stuff. I have some dragon earrings if that's your thing. If you want those Maleficent vibes, I've got them for you.
I've purchased some of the jewelry that Ashley makes. It's very nice stuff. The ones that I bought were these tiny little message in a bottle necklaces, and I gave one to my mother, one to my sister, and one to each of my grandmothers, and they thought that they were all very cute. I've seen my mother wearing it. My sister lives in another state, so I don't get to see her. Although she likes cute things and unique things, so I'm sure she wears it. I have to be honest though and say I haven't seen my grandmothers wearing them, but they also don't wear regular jewelry, so
Yeah.
it's very very nice stuff, and I recommend anyone going out there and checking it out. If you have a girlfriend, if you have a sister or whatever, buy her something. It's very
Or
nice.
if you're just a man who's into wearing that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. I also
people,
get those a
what
lot too.
whatever, people of all genders, of all spectrums, you're all welcome. Go enjoy, go enjoy, and God
It's
bless.
Pride Month. We
Yeah.
support
Oh my
everybody.
goodness. Yes, we love all the people and we support everyone. But so moving back to Once Upon a Time, how did you happen to come across it? Like, do you remember like seeing trailers or?
Like I said, I think it was just from seeing, the promotions on ABC. Just because I didn't watch TV doesn't mean everybody around me didn't watch
Mm,
TV. So I did see them, when I was walking through and the news was on. So
mhm.
like I had seen enough of it to go, okay, it's a show about fairy tale characters in our world. That sounds interesting, if not weird. I'm going to watch it because it sounds weird.
And the Disney aspect of it all, it being
Yeah,
ABC,
it was
Disney.
gonna be one of
Yeah.
those where I was like, it's one of those shows where like you hear of it and it's like it's either gonna be good or it's gonna be bad.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I'm gonna go watch it to find out if it is good or bad.
mhm. And as you've mentioned in a couple episodes, and you might have even mentioned in this episode, but it escapes my memory. You're currently reading the Once Upon a Time book. Well, the
Yeah,
first
I'm
book, I should
currently,
say.
you know, I'm sure we'll do an episode down the line about like the book itself and my
Mm,
overthoughts, but it's Reawakened, a Once Upon a Time tale by Odette Bean. Uh, it's not the greatest, if I'm being honest. It's basically a one for one retelling about the series.
mm,
Every chapter is the same title as, whatever the episode was. Uh, they don't focus a lot on the Enchanted Forest stuff a lot of the time, which is I'd be okay with, but they still do back and forth on occasion. They
mm,
also go way out of the way to paint Regina as evil, Emma as good, and Henry is just the all-knowing child that's just there for plot device.
mm.
And I know the book was written in 2013, so it was written 2 years after the show came out. So
Hmm.
like, I just assume, I don't think that's Odette Bean's fault that it's not the greatest. I assume she was just like, here's the assignment,
Yeah.
write the book.
Yeah.
And she just kind of had a, it's still like a 350-page book
Phew.
that like, I imagine should be double that. Like it
Yeah.
should be like Harry Potter, like the fifth book of Harry Potter, like length in
Yeah.
how like
Or a
dense
George
the
R. R.
material
Martin
is.
novel. That's-
Yeah, it
Yeah.
needs to, when you think of the show, it's a very densely packed show with a lot of information, and the book often has to kind of just go, all right, we don't need that information. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder
we'll
if
get to it later, maybe.
I wonder if the thought process behind it was people who are going to read the book have already watched the show.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I was like, I don't know who this book was written for. I don't
Hmm.
know if it was written for people who hadn't seen it so that they can get kind of the crash course diet version, or if it was written for people like us who have seen the show to like, oh, just have this on their bookshelf and like have this other thing from the show, which would be fine. But I, as a person who has watched the show, don't think it's a very good retelling in any way.
Hmm.
And I know there's only 4, there's some comics, but I know there's 4 books.
Hmm.
The other books are literally just like, the next book in the series is Red's Rising. It's just a book about Red and about Ruby. And the book after that, it's just about Regina. So it's not doing this play-by-play of the season. So I assume they decided it was a bad idea to do it that way.
I have to ask, is the Red Book a picture book? Because I might pick that up then.
I don't think so.
No, drat.
I am getting the actual physical copy of the Red Book. So if you want it when I'm done, you can have it.
It's a running joke that I have going now about I decided out of nowhere tonight to just make jokes about how attractive I find Ruby / Red Riding Hood. Don't know where it came from, but it's the running joke going right now. So was there anything else you'd like to discuss?
No, I think we kind of hit it all, to be honest.
Okay. That concludes this very special episode of the Once Again podcast. We have been your hosts, Ashley and Jason. If you would like to reach out to us with questions, comments, or critiques, you can at onceagainpod@gmail.com or tweet us at onceagainpod, all one word. If you're feeling generous and would like to contribute to the show, you can at patreon.com/onceagainpod. Thank you and have an excellent day.